Hello, hello. How's everyone? Nice to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I don't know how many people are going to show up. It's a little bit early in the day, but if they do, that's great. Let me say hello to the people that are here before we get started. I see Jessica's here and Yvonne, Red Miller. Nice to see you. So we only have a few people. Hello, Jan. Penny Lane, good to see you. I'm going to give some people a time to get up online. Hi, Bree. I see Bree's here. Kara, John, nice to see you. Greetings. Hello, Brenda. So there are people jumping on, which is wonderful. Mary, nice to see you. So we'll give it another minute or so. Cheryl, nice to see you. Anne, Mary, very nice to see all of you today. Happy Sunday, happy weekend. Hello, Kara. More people are jumping on, so we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll get into the discussion. And after the discussion, of course, we're going to do our usual questions and answers. And so I won't be looking at chat while I go over the discussion. But hello, Frankie. Afterwards, I will go through chat and answer the questions. So if you want to ask a question in chat, please write the word question so it's easy for me to find your question. And hello, Tara. You're welcome. My pleasure. I hope it helped you when I sent you the remote healing. So afterwards, I'll check the chat and try to find all your questions and answer them for you. Any topic is fine. There's no specific topic that we're limited to. So if you have any questions at all, go ahead and ask. Hello, Al Jolson. Nice to see you. Hello, team. I can't pronounce that. Dicidu 222. Nice to see you. Thank you for jumping on. Hello, Mary. Okay, so I don't want to keep you all waiting too long, so let's get into it. So today, as you saw on my thumbnail, we're going to talk about men who cheat, lie, and deceive their partners. We've had a lot of discussion about Chris Watts and the murders, but I haven't heard a lot of discussion about why he decided to cheat on his wife. So I thought it would be helpful to review this topic so that all of you can have a better understanding of perhaps what was going on in his mind. And there are so many others famous cases that the husband may or may not have cheated on the wife. There are a lot of cases like Scott Peterson. He did cheat on his wife and murder his wife. So, we're going to look at that and see what makes these people do what they do. Hello, Red Miller. Nice to see you. Hi, Baxter Boo. What a cute name. I love it. Okay, so let's get into it. So, as always, I look into the topics that I discuss, and I review the research that supports what I tell you so that you know that what I'm telling you is credible and it comes from a reliable source, not only from my education and experience, but from research studies. So it was interesting to learn that 1 in 2.7 men will cheat on their partner. And most of the time, the partner has no idea that their partner is cheating on them. There are a number of reasons why men cheat. And it was interesting to learn in this research study that I looked at that the primary reason that 92% of the men stated didn't have anything to do with intimacy or sex. It was about having an emotional connection with the person that they cheated with and an emotional disconnection with their partner. And specifically, they mention that these men felt unappreciated in their relationships. And this happens because, life is full of challenges. There are financial issues, raising of children, daily chores, weekly chores, all of the things that all of us have to deal with on a regular basis. And because of that, it's easy for couples to sort of drift away from appreciating each other in a lot of ways. So in cases where the man cheats, the other woman often makes the man feel better about himself. She makes him feel different. She makes him feel appreciated and admired. And so these men, they're searching and looking for someone to build them up, to build up their ego and make them feel valued. Now, that doesn't mean that the female in their relationship is falling short in any way. It has everything to do with the man's own ego and self-esteem, sense of self. And the wife really didn't have anything to do with the man developing a fragile ego. So let's get that out of the way. Now, the research studies that I looked at also noted that the men did not typically cheat with someone that was more attractive than their current partner. Now, I think my personal opinion in the case of Chris Watts is that Shanann was far more beautiful than the mistress. So I think that applies in that particular case. So in all of the research studies I looked at, 88% of the men said that the other woman wasn't as attractive as their own wife. Now, let's talk about how often does the man confess to cheating before being caught. Now, in the Chris Watts case, he alleged that he had that emotional discussion where he told Shanann that he didn't love her anymore, but he did deny that over and over again that he was having an affair. So it wasn't a surprise to learn when looking at these research studies that only 7% of men who cheat actually told their wife without being asked. Okay? 55% of the men have either not told their wives or lied after being confronted by their partner, usually with hard evidence in hand, and yet they still lie. And I think after looking at this, I think it's pretty safe to say that if the partner is waiting for the man to admit that he's having an affair, she might as well just go play the lottery because she's playing against the odds. So chances are he's not going to admit it, even in the face of evidence. And the real destructive part about learning that your partner has been unfaithful is the deception, the repeated deception, which is the ultimate betrayal, because typically it's lie upon lie upon lie. Um, Now, most men who have affairs meet their partner in one of two places. It's typically at work, or they meet them through some hobby that they engage in. And it typically begins as a friendship that develops into an emotional relationship. There are lots of dynamics that contribute to a man's decision to engage in an affair. And generally, his choice to cheat is driven by one of a number of factors, and I'm going to go over those with you. The first one is immaturity. If the man doesn't have a lot of experience in committed relationships, or if he doesn't fully understand that his actions will inevitably have consequences, like hurting his partner, he may think that it's fine to engage in an affair. He may believe that his commitment to monogamy, he may see it as sort of like a jacket that he puts on and takes off as he pleases, depending on the circumstance. So that's the first thing we want to look at. We want to look at the man's level of maturity. Next, we need to consider any kind of co-occurring issues. The man may have ongoing problems with alcohol or drug abuse, and that would affect his decision making. And it typically can result in regrettable decisions. He may also have an addiction to sex, meaning that he's compulsive and compulsively engaging in not only sexual fantasies, but behaviors, sexual behaviors that tend to numb out the reality of his particular situation or his life's problems. The next thing we want to look at is insecurity. The man may feel that he's too old, or not handsome enough, or not rich enough, not smart enough. There are a lot of men who cheat because he's looking for validation in the other woman. And he's not necessarily getting that validation in his relationship with his partner. And so his engaging in an affair provides him with the need to be wanted and desired, and the need to feel worthy. Again, that has to do with a fragile ego and low self-esteem. Now, there are another thing that we consider is there are a couple of versions that typically play out when a man thinks that his relationship with his significant other is over. So the first version is that he may want to end the relationship with his significant other, But instead of just telling his partner that he is unhappy and wants to get a divorce or separate, he cheats instead, which forces the partner to end up doing the dirty work. It's like he creates a situation in which the partner ends up being the one that has to address the infidelity. The second version is that he may want to end the relationship, but not until he has another relationship lined up. Such as in the case of Chris Watts. He had the mistress waiting in the wings. So he could, he had his next relationship already lined up and was willing to walk away from the one that he was in. Unfortunately, the way that he decided to end that relationship was to annihilate his family. And so the next thing I want to look at is, does the man have any kind of social support system? He may not have a lot of supportive friendships with other men. And so he expects his emotional needs and his social needs to be met by his significant other. And that's a tricky situation because the partner will inevitably fail at providing him with the attention and validation and admiration, etc., that he needs. And so he goes elsewhere to find that. The next thing we want to look at is sometimes there's a confusion between limerence and commitment. So the man might understand the difference between he might not understand the difference between romantic intensity and long-term love. The romantic intensity, usually at the beginning of a relationship, there are a lot of neurochemical changes in the brain in an early romance, and it's typically referred to, the word is limerence. And these men might misunderstand limerence for love. They may confuse the two, and they don't understand that healthy long-term relationships, the limerence time, the limerence period of the relationship does fade over time, but it's replaced with a longer lasting commitment and a deeper form of love. Another reason is childhood abuse. So the man may be reenacting or latently processing some type of childhood trauma. Perhaps it's some neglect in the childhood, some type of emotional abuse, physical abuse, etc. And in these cases, his wounds in childhood have created attachment and intimacy issues that might leave him unable to or unwilling to fully commit to one person. He could also be using the excitement and distraction of the infidelity as a way to self-soothe from his painful experiences in childhood. The next reason we need to look at is selfishness. It is quite possible that in the man's primary consideration is for himself and only for himself. He can therefore lie and keep secrets without the least bit of regret or remorse, as long as he's getting what he wants. It is quite possible that he never intended to be monogamous. And rather than seeing his vow of monogamy as a sacrifice made to and for the relationship, he views it as something to be avoided and sort of worked around. That's where all the deceit and the deception comes into play. Another thing we want to look at is what we call terminal uniqueness. The man might feel that he is different and he deserves something special that other men might not deserve. And he might feel that the rules don't apply to him. So he is free to reward himself outside of his primary relationship whenever he wants. This is a level of entitlement that we see in this type of person. The next thing we want to look at is impulsivity. The man may never have even thought about having an affair until the opportunity presented itself. And then, without even thinking about it, without thinking about the consequences of engaging in infidelity, he just goes for it without a thought of the wreckage that he could leave behind. The next thing we want to look at is unrealistic expectations. The man might feel that his partner should meet his every whim and desire 24/7, regardless of how his partner feels at any particular moment. And he doesn't understand that his partner has her own needs and her own thoughts and her own feelings that may not always involve him. So when his expectations are not met, he goes outside of the relationship to get those expectations fulfilled. The next thing we want to look at is anger and revenge. Some men cheat to take revenge on their partner. He may be angry with the partner and intentionally want to hurt the partner. So in this type of case, the infidelity is intentional and it's meant to be seen and it's meant to be known and found out about. He doesn't bother to lie or keep secrets about the affair because he wants his partner to know about it. That takes us back to version number 1, where the man wants to end the relationship, but he leaves the dirty work up to his partner. So it's pretty obvious that there are a lot of things that we need to consider, a lot of factors that drive a person's decision to enter into an affair and to cheat. And it's important to know that regardless of the reasons, the man did not have to do the cheating. It was a choice. It was a conscious decision. Because we know that there are always other options. There's couples therapy. There's being open and honest with your partner to talk about the things that are bothering you in a relationship. There are avenues that you can go down to improve the relationship, or get a separation or ultimately divorce. So the man does have choices, um, and they don't involve degrading and ruining the integrity of his partner and his life. Um, but some men just knowingly decide, for a variety of reasons, that they're going to engage in affairs and be unfaithful. And they will lie and hide their behavior. A lot of times, men will make excuses to get out of the house and go on errands, so that they have time to call the mistress or text the mistress. So there's, things like that. There's a lot of deception in this type of situation. So I think it would be helpful to go over some of the things that you can look for, to see if someone that you are in a relationship with, or perhaps someone that you know, may have a partner who they suspect is having an affair. So there are some warning signs that you should look out for. And the first warning sign is any improvement in the person's appearance. So if your significant other suddenly starts going to the gym or exercising and eating more healthy, it could be a sign that they're trying to appear more attractive to someone else. So that's one of the first warning signs that one should be aware of. The second one is secretive telephone and computer use, because cheaters tend to use their phones and their computers more frequently than before, and they will guard their privacy more strictly than they had in the past. For instance, if your partner never had a password on their phone or their computer and suddenly they do, or if they stop or start deleting text messages or browser histories on a daily basis, that's not a good sign. So also look out for if your partner never gives up their phone. They even take it into the bathroom with them when they take a shower. That's not a good sign. They don't want you to look on their phone or their computer. So the deception is there, and they're trying to hide what they're doing. Another thing to look out for is periods of time when you're not able to reach your partner. If they are engaging in an affair, they may be less likely to answer the phone when you call or respond to your text messages. And we saw this very clearly in the case of Chris Watts, where he wasn't answering Shanann's phone calls or her text messages. And the person may make excuses for why they're not picking up their phone. They may say that, oh, I was driving, or I was in a dead zone, I didn't get any reception. They may say, I didn't know you were trying to get in touch with me. So also look out for if your partner is all of a sudden working late or taking business trips that he never did before. That's a bad sign. The next thing to look for is an increase or a decrease in the levels of sexual activity in your relationship, because it can be a sign of infidelity. less sex typically occurs because the partner is focused on someone else. But more sex could also occur because they're trying to cover up the fact that they're having an affair. And another sign of possible cheating is that the sex that you are having with your partner feels somewhat less emotional, not as connected, more mechanical, without any of the emotional expression. So another thing to look out for is if your partner starts introducing new techniques into your sex life, that could also be a sign that your partner is having an affair. The next thing to look out for is hostility. If your partner begins to behave in a hostile manner towards you or your relationship in general, this is something you need to look out for, because people who cheat will rationalize their behavior. And one of the ways that they do this is to place the blame on you, on the partner. And they tell themselves things like, oh, you don't look as good as you used to look when we first got together, or when I first married you, you were so, I don't know, so thin or so sexy. You're not so adventurous anymore in the bedroom. They'll say things like, you don't appreciate the wonderful things that I do for you. There are many things that they can say to shift the blame and the guilt for the affair on to the partner. So, and it's often that their justifications that they develop in their mind for the affair will somewhat leak out in conversation. They may be very judgmental towards you and judgmental about your relationship. It may seem to you that nothing you do is good enough. You can't do anything right. Everything you do is wrong. Things that never used to bother your partner all of a sudden bother your partner. Things like that. Those are very strong indications that there's trouble in the relationship. Another thing to look out for is any schedule change, any alteration in your partner's schedule. Like I said earlier, if your partner never used to work late and all of a sudden is working late, and it starts to happen frequently, that's not a good sign. It's a sign that they're lying to you. Same thing with the business trips. If they've never taken business trips in the past and all of a sudden they're taking weekend getaways, that's a problem. Typically, that means that they're having an affair. They may start going to the gym, but they're really not going to the gym. These kind of things. So the partner may get very forgetful about picking up the children, forgetting birthdays and anniversaries and other types of important events. This all tells us that the partner is not focused on the relationship. Their mind is elsewhere. They're busy elsewhere. Another thing that you'd never think of is your friends may begin to be uncomfortable around you, because typically with infidelity, the partner is the last one to find out, and the friends typically know or have an inkling that that your partner is cheating, and so they become uncomfortable around you because it puts them in an awkward situation. They know about the affair, but they know you don't know about the affair. So your friends may start to avoid you or avoid conversations about your relationship. Or they could overcompensate and become extra nice. All of these are not good signs. The next thing you want to look at is money, unexplained expenses. So if there are unusual charges on the credit card, or there's suddenly less money in the bank, or in the retirement fund, or in the investment accounts, um, it's a possible sign of infidelity. And if you ask your partner about these expenses and their answer doesn't seem truthful, then it's likely that they are engaging in spending their money on gifts and trips and dinners, etc., hotel rooms, with a mistress. So it's important to know that the financial cost of cheating can add up very quickly. So if you see any large withdrawals, or evidence of some purchases from places that you are not familiar with, it needs to be investigated, because it's probably a sign that there's something going on in your relationship. The next thing is when emotional intimacy begins to fade. If your partner seems less emotional, less vulnerable, less intimate than they used to be, that's a sign that they're pulling away from you, that they're distancing themselves from you emotionally. And this is typically because they're investing all of that in another person, all of those emotional connections in the person they're having an affair with. And the last thing to look at is, if you question your partner about whether or not they're having an affair, typically they will avoid and deflect the conversation, because the last thing that they want typically is to talk to you about what they're doing. So if you introduce the topic in a conversation, they will change the conversation or come up with some, lame excuse or obvious lie. They'll shift the blame. They'll gaslight you. They will project things onto you as if you're the one that's unstable. You're the one that's crazy for thinking that. They'll blame you for not, quote, trusting them. So my advice to you is, if you have a gut feeling that something isn't right in your relationship, do not ignore that feeling, because your intuition is probably correct. And so you'll want to investigate further what's really going on. Now, a person can display several of these signs, and it doesn't mean that they're having an affair, but it does mean that there's something wrong in the relationship that needs to be explored and discussed. So it's important to be able to take the time to voice your concerns and find out. You have a right to know what's going on in your relationship. So let's take a look at chat, and let me see if anyone has any questions. I'm going to scroll all the way up and see what's happening. Okay. Oh, hi, Gina. I'm saying hi to some people that weren't here before. Hi, Jock Girl. If anyone has questions, please just type the word question followed by your question. Oh, Jan says her ex met his mistress at work. That's such a common, it's so common that that's where they meet. Um, Jan says hers was very immature. And so was Chris Watts. Wasn't this like his second relationship ever with Shanann? So he didn't have a lot of experience and he was very emotionally immature. Hi, Trixie. I see your name. Oh, Jan, oh, you guys saw Thor? Yeah, he likes to photobomb. Okay, Karen says she was married 38 years. He traveled a lot. Apparently, he played up from being, see, to end of our marriage. Oh, and he no empathy. No, none. Like I said, they're selfish. It's all about getting their own needs met and not yours. Oh, Baxter, you had a bad experience too. 14 years together minus 2 months. Oh, it's always so, it's just devastating because, like I said, the deceit, it, when you find out and then you look back and you think of all of the things that you've been lied to about, it really is earth-shattering at times. It really makes you feel off balance, like you've been living a lie, but the lie wasn't yours. It was his or hers. I don't mean to be picking on men. Women could do this as well. Yes, Trixie, nothing worse than being betrayed by someone you trust. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mary says that she's yet to hear about a cheater who had any real remorse. I agree, Mary. You know, I see a lot of couples in my practice as a psychotherapist, and it's hard to see the wreckage and to see the partner, whichever one was cheated on, try to piece themselves back together as if they, like if you drop a glass on the floor and the glass shatters, that's how they feel, and they're shattered and they have to, you know, glue their pieces back together. Sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. But it's a good thing if they come into therapy, because even if the partner, the cheater, ends up out of the relationship, the person who was cheated on can remain in therapy and overcome the damage, the hurt, the pain, the devastation. Yeah. Trixie says that's cowardly. Yeah. Yes. And Jan says Harris didn't want to be the bad guy. Yeah. Kind of like Chris Watts, right? Right? God forbid people saw him for what he really was. He didn't want the neighbors and his friends to know that he was engaging in an affair, let alone annihilating his family. Debbie says, yeah, they want their cake and eat it too. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, if you or anyone that you know, maybe a family member or a dear friend or anyone that you know, if they're unhappy in their relationship, encourage them to either resolve it by going into therapy, a couples therapy, or talking to their partner, or advise them to get out of it. Get out of the relationship. If it's making you unhappy, why would you stay? And I know a lot of people say, well, I wanted to stay for the children. Now, I could tell you as a psychotherapist that staying in a bad relationship for the sake of the children does nothing for your children except hurt them. because you're not role modeling a healthy relationship. And the children end up being more damaged if you stay in a bad relationship. Oh, Baxter, thank you. Oh, thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I love having you. I love having all of you guys tune in. And you have no idea how much I appreciate you spending time listening to me. And I really hope that I'm able to help you understand human behavior a little bit better. Oh my goodness, everybody saw Thor. Yeah, he was right here. Thank you, Trixie. Yes, he's a beautiful boy. He's my bodyguard. 230 pounds of him. Oh, Diana, very good. That's very insightful. Yes, a trauma bond can be confused with love. And most of you who have survived a narcissistic relationship understand too well what a trauma bond is. And that's very typical when people get out of a narcissistic relationship. And it's one of the reasons why people stay in narcissistic relationships longer than they should, because they're trauma bonded to the narcissist. Yes. Oh, sure, Gina, anytime. Yeah, I'll talk to him. Sure. You have my email. And just email me your phone number and I'll call you. Oh, Jan, you were in the, oh, yeah, you were on the graveyard shift. Yes. Very easy for him to run around behind your back. Oh, I'm so sorry. And Jan, yes, I'm sure he was trying to make you leave so that he didn't have to be the one to do the dirty work. Absolutely. And I'm sure his version of events would paint himself as not the evil one, not the liar. Dexter, your daughter says X is a narcissist. He's not bothered seeing her since 2008. Oh, well, at the very least, he's a lousy father. That's terrible. I'm so sorry. But you know what? If he truly is a narcissist, then chances are he would damage her. So maybe it's best that he's not in the picture. Hi, Jetta Hala. I see you. Cookie. Oh, what a cute name. If he cheats, let her have him. Absolutely, Cookie. I'm on board with that. What goes around comes around. Glad he's out of your life. Should send the mistress a thank you note. Absolutely. And you know, when I was looking over all of this research, a lot of it said once a cheater, always a cheater. So it's good to know if you meet someone and get into a relationship with them and they confess to you that they had cheated in the past, kick him to the curb because he'll do it to you. Hello, Broken Justice. That's an interesting name. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Okay. Hi, NB. Hi, YT Kimberly. Nice to see you. Hi, Brenda. Al says first wife would go out and buy cigarettes. Yes. Yeah, those errands. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, Al, I'm sorry. Oh. Broken Justice says her first husband did that as well. Cookie, you put up with gaslighting for 17 years. Oh, finally knew you would rather be in a mud hut. Absolutely. You know, there's a saying, I'd rather be happy alone than miserable with you. And that's such a true statement. Um, Secrecy, YT Kimberly, yes, it's all about deception and secrecy and hiding the evidence. Absolutely. Al says she only smokes cigars. Yes, broken justice. Would rather be happy, love yourself way too much to ever do it again. Good for you. That's the spirit. You all sound like a bunch of survivors. I don't think there's any of us that haven't been damaged along the way in a relationship, some more than others. Um, and chances are we've all encountered a narcissist along the way. And it's very healthy to really shine a light on our experiences in the past and understand completely what happened, and so that you don't repeat um, the same, you don't fall into the same trap. So many people pick the same bad boyfriend or same bad girlfriend over and over and over, and they don't realize what it is that's driving them to do that. What is it that they need to look at so that they can make better choices in partners? Jan says that they put down the things that they said they liked and appreciated. Yes. And that's exactly what they do. They blame shift. It's your fault. You're not as attractive, or you gained weight, or they'll make you believe that you're the reason they had to have their affair. It's really so transparent. They're so transparent when you can look back, and then you're like, oh gosh, how did I know? Why didn't I know? Why didn't I realize? Hello, Lola. Okay. Oops. Hi, Capri. Okay. Looking to see if I have missed any. Oh, here's a question from YT Kimberly. In my practice, have you found that as a whole that women view sex differently than men? And if so, how do we handle this difference? Yes, I have found that. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we are so different. We think so differently than men do. Men are much more practical and compartmentalized in their thinking, whereas women, we're complicated. We are, men are emotional. A lot of people say, oh, men aren't emotional. No, they are. And their egos are fragile at times. Oh, Al, I'll go back and check your question. Okay. But women tend to equate love with sex. And I don't think men do that the same. I don't think that they equate love with sex. I think men look at sex as sex, that it's fun and it feels good, and it's not really connected to the depth of feeling that they have for you. It's not so much an expression of their love for you, whereas it is for a woman. So that's a big difference. So yeah, it's different, and it hurts more if your partner is unfaithful, because there's a much deeper connection between sex and love for women, whereas the connection for men is they can love as deeply, but it's not necessarily connected to the sex part of the relationship. Okay, so I'm going to, YT Kimberly, what are the odds of a cheater changing? Well, after reviewing all this research that I did prior to today, and in my experience in my practice, if someone's moral compass is skewed enough to make them choose to be unfaithful, then the chances that they will do that again are very high. And infidelity is very difficult to overcome if you remain in the relationship with the cheater. I have found that as well in my practice with couples. Al, I'm going to hold on. John says, if children know about one of their partners cheating, how much of a chance that they will copy the parent? I don't think, no, in my experience, the children end up resenting the parent that cheated and don't want to be anything like that. Okay. Al, I'm scrolling up to see if I can find your question. Hello, Lavender Blue. Amy says, her son's father didn't want anything to do with our son till he was on. Oh, I'm so sorry, Amy. Yeah, too little, too late, right? Capri says financial abuse, along with other things, can make it hard to leave. Absolutely. It's so complicated. You saved secretly. Good for you. How clever. Before you could leave. Yes, people do feel stuck and stay. And then there are people like Chris Watts who just decide to kill everyone. That's his answer. Okay. Lavender said that he moved in with the mistress, I take it, after your son was taken there 2 weekends. That he is actually having an affair for 2 years before. Ugh. So 2 years of lies. Yes, the deceit. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. Okay. Thank you, Jenny. Janessa, hi, Janessa. Yeah, excuses drives you nuts. Yeah. Yes, the arguing. Please don't fight in front of children. Please don't do that. I know it's hard because when you get worked up, you just want to express yourself, and it's so damaging to the children because children have a very unique way of taking responsibility for adult problems. And so if you're fighting, or not necessarily you, but maybe a friend who fights often with their spouse, or a family member who you know has a very difficult relationship, and they're yelling and fighting in front of the child will blame themselves for the difficulty. I see that all the time. Claire wants to know, the narcissist's lack of empathy. Are they selfish? Do they care for the spouse or the children from the relationship? It depends on what end of the spectrum the narcissist is on. If they're a lesser narcissist, there may be some level of caring for the spouse and children, but if they're a malignant narcissist, they absolutely don't care about anyone. They're not capable of love. They are not capable of empathy. And the only feelings a malignant narcissist has, and that's why they wear a mask, is They feel shame and self-hatred, and the mask protects them from those feelings. And if you trigger those feelings in the narcissist will want revenge. They're very spiteful. Lavender has a question. What is the effect of taking a child 5 years on dates with the mistress, and then when the child reveals that he saw them kissing, is called a liar? How old was the child? Who does that? The effect, not, let's just put aside that they took the child on dates, but the damage, the more damaging in that situation is that the child was called a liar when the child said what the child saw. And that's damaging. I don't know. I hope that, Lavender, that was your child. Jan says, as the child of a narcissist and a codependent, yes, absolutely. They do damage their children. Yes. Hi, Carla. Thank you. Very sweet of you to say that. Yvonne says, biological dad has had so many wives and girlfriends. I no longer show interest in his new partners. What's the point? That's not being a bad person, Yvonne. That's just being a realistic. You know, he just has an issue with commitment, or he gets bored very quickly. But no, why would you invest in a relationship with someone if they're not going to be around? And there's just going to be the new girlfriend. Baxter says, why do they go to friends after to tell the story from their side? We talked about this when I did my live about the smear campaigns. Usually when a relationship fails, one of the partner, one or the other, gets the friends. So typically they go and tell their side of the story because they want to keep the friends. They don't want the friends to side with the other partner. That's why they do that. Kara's glad she's single. That's great. I'm glad you're independent and happy being single. Al, I am still looking for your question. I'm scrolling up fast as I can. Okay, Gina, I would like to talk to him about that too. Diana says, narcissistic abuse is revealed when the story is told backwards. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Diana has a question. Would you agree immature seems more innocent and emotionally arrested is more of a pathology or disability? I think there are a lot of reasons that contribute to emotional immaturity. And when I think of arrested development, being emotionally arrested in their development, typically that happens if the person begins abusing substances early in life, in their teenage years. Their development will stop at the age that the abuse begins. So say they start using drugs or alcohol at the age of 15. Fast forward and now they're 35 or 40 years old. They're still emotionally 15. But there are other reasons for emotional immaturity. A lot of things can contribute to that. And I wouldn't say so much pathology. There are psychopaths, and sociopaths are not emotional people. Psychopaths and sociopaths are not emotional people. so it doesn't really apply. Um, and disability, um, I don't know. I mean, I would have to know the circumstances to be able to better advise what would have contributed to that person's immaturity. Um, okay. Yes, Kimberly. Yes, they project onto you and they'll accuse you of cheating, or they'll be so indignant, like, how could you think that I would do that? Yes. Oh, hi, Abu Bakar Ahmed. Nice to see you again. I, I'm probably not saying your name correctly, but I tried. But it's nice to see you because I remember your name from my last live. Al, I see this one. Your first wife started introducing weird fantasies about a third person in the bedroom. Was the third person like she wanted a menage a trois? Um, that's interesting. That was a sign. Absolutely. Al, I'm looking to make sure that there isn't another question in there. Okay. Um, okay, Al, am almost to the top of the chat, so I don't. Okay. Al, if I missed it, please type it again. And now I'm going to scroll back down to make sure I didn't miss anybody else's questions while I was searching around. Okay. Oh, Baxter, that was very clever of you to notice that. He didn't show any changes except for trimming his armpit hair. Interesting. So he changed one of his grooming habits. Yes. Um, okay. All right. Um, okay. I think. Okay. Dutchy says everybody who cheats a little bit off narcissism. I think that people who cheat, well, they can be, certainly can be narcissists. I think that they feel entitled to do that. They give themselves permission to do that. And so there must be some level of narcissism and entitlement because they give themselves permission to behave badly. And it is a decision. They don't stumble into an affair, they don't trip over an affair or a mistress. It's a decision, it's intentional. And that's why it hurts so much when the partner finds out that they've been deceived. Linda says she's working on divorce papers here and now. Oh, covert narcissist, verbally abusive. Oh, Linda, don't feel ashamed for not being able to extract yourself from being ensnared. I've talked about that before. Narcissists ensnare people into their web, and it's their web of lies, and you know, and they do that. You felt trapped. He moved you across country, no family, no friends. They isolate, of course, more control over you. So no, don't feel ashamed. The important thing is that you figured it out and you're getting away from that person. And that's what you should focus on. And you should applaud yourself for being able to accomplish that. and not tolerate it for another minute of another day. So good for you. Nothing to be ashamed of. Usually, narcissists ensnare empaths and kind people because kind people have all the qualities that the narcissist doesn't have, and they are a fantastic source of narcissistic supply, of fuel to feed that ego, to feed the narcissist's fragile ego. And trying to satisfy a narcissist is like pouring water into a glass with no bottom on the glass. You will deplete yourself trying um, to meet the narcissist's needs, and it's exhausting. And I'm proud of you for getting out of it. And don't look back. Just look forward. Okay. Oh, Jenny, yes. Your mom's a narcissist. Yes, you do everything to be the complete opposite. I see that a lot, and thank God I do see that a lot. Narcissistic parents can cause so much wreckage. And it's very difficult to walk away from a toxic relative, whether it's a parent or a sibling, because we are raised to believe that blood is thicker than water and that you have to stand by family and all of that stuff. And that leads people to feel obligated to tolerate narcissistic abuse. And it also makes people feel guilty if they want to distance themselves from the narcissistic family member. And my advice is always to my patients, if you are dealing with a toxic person, any toxic person, and they are damaging you in any way, and it doesn't even have to be something severe, if they are draining you of emotional energy, that is not healthy. And you need to have strong boundaries and walk away from people who are not good for you. And I don't care if it's a parent or a sibling or an ex or a friend, you need to walk away because they damage you, and you want to be your best self for the people in your life that deserve you. Toxic people don't deserve you. So you need to understand what you're dealing with, understand that they don't change, and walk away. Amy says, both children of narcissistic mothers. He was the golden child, and Amy, you were the scapegoat. Good for you. You must cut them off. I often feel so bad for Shanann because she married into that dysfunctional narcissistic family dynamic. And like I said in that other live, the smear campaign that they launched against her from the very beginning continues to this day. And it's despicable. I can only imagine what she had to tolerate over the years that she dealt with that family. Oh, Lavender, I'm sorry that your son developed anxiety. You know, there are a lot of things that you can do to help with anxiety that don't include medicating yourself. There's a wonderful workbook, and you can get it on Amazon. It's called the Anxiety Workbook, and it gives you all kinds of suggestions on things that you can do to control the anxiety and to get relief from feelings of anxiety. So maybe if you could get that for your son, that would help. Hi, Linda. Okay. Did I miss anyone's question or comment? Hello, Netherlands. Hi, Dutchie. I'm scrolling back down to make sure. I don't want to miss anybody's question or comment or topic. Oh, thank you, Mr. Q. She's asking people for the thumbs up. Yay, thank you. Yeah, I really do appreciate everyone joining me today. Hi, Alicia. Oh, you had that book. Isn't it great? It's a really good book. Gives you a lot of suggestions. I really like the one where you lay in bed, you lay down, and you tense all your muscles, starting in your toes, and you tense and release every muscle group all the way up to your forehead. And honestly, by the time you get to your forehead, you are relaxed. The anxiety will dissipate. Oh, Jan, yeah. If you had an abusive father, yeah. And I can understand that you felt relieved. Um, it's I hope you're healing from that abuse. It's very difficult because the things we experience in our childhood really shape us. Um, and we have to work to overcome those things. And part of part of overcoming those things is understanding that the abuser was flawed. We're all flawed. We're all human and we're flawed, some more than others. Um, oh, thank you, Baxter. That was very sweet of you. I'm the only person you ever super chatted. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Um, so yeah, that abusive parent was flawed, terribly flawed, and that's not an excuse. Um, and I totally understand you feeling relieved that that person's gone, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Lola has a question. Have I had any personal experience with a cheater? No, Lola, fortunately, I have not. Um, I have not. No. Okay. Yes, Amy, the narcissists seek out good people, and they do. They'll try to suck the life out of you. Okay. I'm scrolling back down, make sure I got everybody's. Oh, Baxter, your mom died in February. Oh, don't do that to yourself. Don't feel guilty for not being devastated. You know, we teach people how to treat us in life. And um, so she did not, if she's a narcissist, she didn't treat you very well. And you didn't really have any choice because she was your parent. Um, if she had not been your parent and was a narcissist, and when I say we teach people how to treat us, if someone mistreats you, you need to let them know that they have mistreated you, and why you feel the way you do. And if they do it again, then you don't need that person in your life. But a parent is different, and sometimes you can't escape your parent until you're older. So you you shouldn't feel guilty about not being devastated, because it's very hard to have a close relationship with a narcissistic parent, because the parent is not there for the child. The parent only validates the child when the child makes the parent look good. And the parent is not the least bit interested in the child's emotional needs, and the child's needs don't get met. So you, why would you feel devastated? Because there was that emotional connection wasn't there because of her flaws, because of her narcissism, not you. You weren't flawed. You were just the child. So no, the blame is on the narcissist, is to blame, not you. Okay. Um, okay. Oh, Amy agrees too. See, Baxter, she wouldn't feel much either. And it's not horrible to say that you wouldn't go to the funeral. You know why it's not horrible to say that? Because it's important to be authentic. And so you're not going to go, not you personally, but why would you go to a funeral to pretend that you're grieving for someone that mistreated you? That's not authentic. And it takes a lot of courage to live in your integrity. And so you're not going to want to pretend to care if you don't. So it's not a horrible thing to say, not at all. Stay in your integrity and be authentic. If you do that, then you shouldn't feel guilty about the choices that you make, because your intent is to be honest and truthful in your dealings with people. Hello, Mike Droppin' Mom. Thank you for coming. That's wonderful. Diana, yes, EMDR. I provide EMDR to my patients, and it does help overcome traumatic events. Absolutely, it does. Yes, Mike Droppin' Mom, you're correct. The person that dies probably wouldn't want that anyway. Yeah. Cookie, I love your question. Do I think he is content in prison? I think he's adaptable. I think he's a chameleon. So I think he is as content as he can be, because he doesn't have the demands of daily life that he did have when he was married, you know, the financial problems, etc., the raising of children. I don't think he's being punished. And what I mean by that is the real punishment for a narcissist is isolation, is a lack of narcissistic supply. And he's receiving a ton of attention and admiration from his misguided admirers and his remaining family. So I don't think he's suffering. at all in prison. What would make him suffer would be to be in a supermax in in a cell for 23 hours a day, and be allowed out for 1 hour a day, because then he would have to he would be alone with himself, and he wouldn't be able to maintain his mask of goodness, and his mask of portraying now he's the pious, religious, Bible quoting person. That is his new mask. So yeah, he's pretty content because he's getting all the admiration and attention that he needs. And money, apparently. People are throwing money at him as well. Gail wants to know, how do you rebuild trust and faith in people when narcissists and bigots have controlled you all your life? I think the first step is understanding that those were the types of people that you had to deal with, that were in your life, and understand that you don't have to invite people like that into your life now, that you're a grown-up and you can choose. And I always tell people that the person that you allow closest to you can make you the sickest. So be very selective now in the people that you allow to get close to you. And as soon as your intuition, you get that little feeling inside, where the red flag, you might see an inkling of someone who is perhaps a narcissist or a bigot. If you get even the slightest inkling of that, then you know what you have to do. You don't allow them into your world. You don't allow them to get close to you, so they can't make you sick. You cannot take the stance that all people are like those people, the narcissists and the bigots that you had in your life. Not all people are like that. You have to know that there are still some good people. And it's more about believing in yourself and believing that you can discern who is good and who is evil. And just take small steps in that direction. That doesn't mean that you're going to hand over your trust to someone just like that. Make them earn your trust, and trust yourself to be able to tell if someone doesn't have a good intention towards you. And yeah, that's where I would start. I would start by understanding that not all people are like that. Not all people are evil, and not all people want to harm you. But you also need to be diligent in selecting only the best people to be around you. Let's see. Oh, Karen, your husband took his 6 boys all to prostitution when they came of age. Wow. Wow. That is wow. That's a lot of boys, too. I don't even have the words. Hi, Linda. Hi, Sonia. Okay, let me see. Hello. Okay. Hi, Rivka. Rivka, I always say it wrong. I'm just checking for any new comments. Um, Hi, Sarah. I don't think CW would have done anything while SW was awake. Too cowardly. Would chloroform have been detected in autopsy, either internally or on the face? Chloroform has to be held over the nose and mouth for 5 minutes, minimum 5 minutes, to render a person unconscious. And the chloroform needs to remain on the person's nose and mouth to for them to continue to be in an unconscious state. Now, if that had occurred, it would show there would be like a burn. It would burn almost like a sunburn would have been on the person's face. However, the fact that we did not, her body was already in a in a moderate state of decomposition when the body was recovered. That burn would not have been detectable. Um, I agree with you. I don't think that she was awake, or at the very least, she didn't see him sneak up on her. If she had been laying down, for instance, it doesn't take but a few seconds to lose consciousness when someone is strangling you or choking you. Um, so and as far as internally detecting chloroform, no, it would not have shown up in any of the toxicology reports. My personal belief is that chloroform was not used in the death of Shanann or the girls. So and it would have only been detected on her skin if she hadn't been in the state of decomposition that she was. If they had found her immediately, there would have been a chance that we would have seen the redness, the burn around the face, but that didn't happen. Okay. Oh, Sonia, good for you. Cleaned out the closet of all the negative people in her life on your own and free. Good for you. Mic drop and mom. What kind of findings would be in an autopsy for the use of Imitrex? I know it can cause a lot of side effects, including thyroid storms. Yeah, Imitrex actually, there are some medications that actually can speed up decomposition, and there are some that will slow it down. It would depend on how much Imitrex may have been in the person's system. I do know that Shanann was prescribed Imitrex for her migraines. So it would depend on how much, if any, she consumed. Um, it wouldn't show in a toxicology, though, not in the routine toxicology. You would have to be looking for that medication specifically. Um, okay. Yes, Cookie, you're right. Linda, you're not stupid. You're getting rid of the toxic person, and that makes you brave and smart. I applaud you. Definitely. Think about it. It's incredibly difficult to extract yourself from a toxic person, a toxic relationship. But if you could think of it this way, the hassle and the anxiety and the emotional upset that is involved during the time that you're extracting yourself from that person pales in comparison to spending the next decade after decade after decade with that toxic person. So it's almost like it's a small price to pay for your future freedom from that person. Real wants to know, in my professional opinion, when did Shanann die? I believe Shanann died between the time that she got home, around 2 a.m., and the time that he left for Survey 319, which would have been, what, 5 something in the morning. That's when I think she died, based on my review of the autopsy and the state of decomposition that she was in. There's so much controversy, and so many people have complained that there is no time of death. And I think what people are upset about is that the time of death that's documented is always the time that the coroner pronounces the person dead. And that happens when a body is discovered or recovered. So if police come upon a dead body, they'll call the coroner. The coroner responds to the scene and pronounces the person dead. That is the official time of death. That doesn't mean that the coroner doesn't calculate knowing about decomposition and what to look for at what particular time in the decomposition process. The coroner does know it during the investigation and looking at the body and then the autopsy findings, etc. The coroner can narrow the window to a more specific time of death, but that would never be revealed on the autopsy report itself. Only the physical changes in the body are documented on the autopsy report, and the official time of death that goes on the death certificate is the time that the body is pronounced dead, officially dead. So I can tell you, based on the detailed description in the autopsy and my experience pronouncing thousands of people dead and seeing all different stages of decomposition, I can tell you that in my professional opinion, she did die between, 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. that morning. Yes, and Baxter, you must have seen my video on the autopsy, yes. And I go through that in great detail about the stages of decomposition and, livor mortis and rigor mortis, etc. So if you want to look at that, it might help. Gail wants to know if prisoners have access to the internet. Is it possible? No, he does not. He only has access to email, and it's not email like we have. It's not, Gmail and Yahoo Mail, etc. It's the jail's system, the prison system email. So no, he cannot get on the internet. He can't watch YouTube videos. No. Mm-mm. Yes, internet access is blocked. Oh, thank you. I think that, whoops, was mic dropping, Mom. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let me see. For that super chat, sorry, I lost my place. Oh, thank you. I'm a gem. Oh, that's So nice of you to say that. Thank you so much. Al wants to know what I think of the online creators who Al, finish your sentence. You mean the online creators who talk about time of death and things that they're not experienced in or don't have the education to be making their statements? Or I think there are a lot of people that present their opinion as fact on YouTube, in particular when it comes to my field of study, as a coroner and as a psychotherapist. A lot of people have a lot of opinions, but they don't have the education and the experience to make an informed opinion. So there's a lot of misinformation about this case, in particular, that other creators have put out there that is completely inaccurate. Yes, Loki, Yvonne, Loki's being very quiet. That's yeah. He'll be coming in around, he's out in the sunroom. He'll be coming in, usually he gets noisy around 5, between 5 and 6. Kara says she took care of her mom. In the end, she had dementia. And when she died, forgiveness was so easy. That's wonderful, Kara, that you could do that. I think that we to move to a place of forgiveness when someone has treated us badly is difficult, but it shows a lot of growth and maturity when we can do that, when we can look at that person and say, well, they were doing the best they could with what they had at the time or what they knew at the time, and that they are flawed and that they are human. And that's hard, but it's healthy because you don't forgive them for their benefit. You forgive them for your own benefit. So you can let go of a lot of the feelings that you have towards them that aren't kind feelings. I don't get that, mic dropping mom, about Al. What did Al say? Oh, here. Okay. What do you say to those online creators who say coroners are not qualified to judge anything and that anyone can be a coroner? They are severely misinformed. Not anyone can be a coroner. It takes a great deal of education, and you have to pass an exam that's much like the bar exam, and then you get to be a coroner. So, and in this country, there are some jurisdictions that only have coroners, and then there are other jurisdictions that have coroners and medical examiners. And that's when the coroner and the medical examiner work together to determine cause and manner of death. In my jurisdiction where I worked, as the coroner, I was the one that would go out to the scene, pronounce the person dead, take complete charge of the body. I would determine an initial cause and manner of death based on the interviews that I do on scene, what the police report, and if needed, I call in other agencies such as if it was a work-related death, I would have OSHA come in. If I determine it's a homicide, I would have, the homicide detectives come. So I would call in all of the different types of agencies and investigators that I needed to continue the work on the scene. And then I would make sure that the person's belongings were secured. And then I would arrange for the transportation of the body to the morgue. And I would go to the person's residence, if geographically possible, and make notification to next of kin before I went back to the morgue. If the person didn't live in the area, then I would make notification by phone once I got back to the morgue. Then there are other processes that take place once the body is at the morgue. And then a detailed report is written, and the following morning, it's reviewed between the coroner and the medical examiner, review the findings from the investigation that the coroner does, and then the medical examiner does the cutting. That's how that works in the jurisdictions where there are coroners and medical examiners, where there are both. More and more jurisdictions are going with the coroner medical examiner model, because it's gotten to the point where it's almost impossible for one person to do all of the work involved in a death case. And because there are so many cases, anybody that dies that doesn't die under the care of a physician, or dies because of an accident, a homicide, a suicide, all of these types of cases, or undetermined death, require a coroner to come on scene to begin the process. So it's just way too many. So now it's more common that we see the coroner doing all of the investigating, the notifying, et cetera, taking jurisdiction of the body. And then the medical examiner just does the cutting. And so that seems to be the most efficient model. So whoever, I've heard some people on the internet, some creators say that coroners aren't qualified. That is absolutely untrue. Coroners are very well educated and absolutely qualified to determine cause and manner of death. So, yeah. Okay. My theory on Chris Watts, Sherry wants to know. Because I look at everything through the eyes of a coroner and through the eyes of someone who understands the criminal mind, I look at evidence that I have available to me. And based on the evidence available, the only conclusion I can come to is that he acted alone. And I do believe that he was completely capable of murdering his children as well as Shanann. And that's the stance I have. Now, if information comes to light that gives us a different direction to go with that, then, I'll evaluate it at that time. There are a lot of theories. I've heard them all. I've watched a lot of the creators that have theories. And I don't agree with them because there's no evidence to support those theories at this time. That doesn't mean there never will be. And, a lot of creators want to blame the mistress. And even if she had no role in the actual commission of the crime, she certainly was in the background stirring up his psychopathy. And so I think I did a video on my opinion of her as well. So right now, my opinion is that he acted alone. There's no doubt in my mind that he was completely capable of murdering his family, because I also believe that he is a covert narcissist and a psychopath, and he didn't care about his family. It was a mask. It was a lie. It was fake, and everyone believed it. Hi, Glamis Girl. Can you explain why the coroner for Tammy Daybell just quickly examined her at the house and didn't investigate her early death? I think she was not even 50. Yeah, that's unusual. If it was an unattended death at her residence, it should have been investigated and an autopsy should have been performed. I don't know very much about, I haven't looked into that case very much, so I can't really comment more on that. That's, so if I'm understanding what you're writing correctly, it sounds like that they just did a cursory examination at the residence and didn't investigate. Doesn't sound right. Okay. Lola says she heard that too. They are insensitive sometimes in the things that they say, and they are sometimes careless in what they share, and they do speculate and try and put the information out as if it's fact, and that to me is wrong. You shouldn't do that. If you don't have the education or experience to speak, to put facts out, then you shouldn't. You should stay in your lane. If you don't understand, if you don't have a degree of education and experience to back up what you're saying, then you shouldn't say it, because that's why there's so much misinformation out there. Irvin, hi, Irvin. Is there any procedural issues with Shanann's body identification? Yeah, I don't think that was the official identification. That story, I heard that story that her mom, said that she asked them, is she beautiful? And does she have black hair? I think she asked. But there would have had to be a more official identification. Usually it's done by fingerprints or in person. The coroner usually will make sure that happens. So yeah, I don't think that was the official identification. Mic drop and Mom wants to know, on my time off, do I ever watch Autopsy? No. No, I don't. No, I really don't have time. I work like 10-hour days seeing patients, and then I try to work, put together something for my lives on the weekends. So I wish I had time, though. I've learned a lot. Says her son's a mortician and he's seen a lot of strange things. Absolutely. I've seen a lot of strange things myself. Okay. Irvin says, the girls were dumped in oil and in an enclosed environment. Can their time of death be hard to accurately predict? Yes. The fact that they were that they were placed in oil, it did contaminate a lot of evidence that we would have had available to us if they had not been in the oil. However, the decomposition process happens regardless. And so the time, there's Loki. So the time of death, based on the state of decomposition, is consistent with Shanann's state of decomposition. So I think it's, in my opinion, they died shortly after they arrived at Survey. Okay. Irvin says, can large amounts of EpiPen injected into someone cause someone to prematurely give birth without killing the mother? I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I think if someone injected a person with large amounts of what is contained in an EpiPen, it would cause, it could cause the person to go into cardiac arrest, actually. And it could very easily kill the person. So no, I don't think it could cause the person to give birth and not kill the mother. No. Okay. Okay. I think I got to everyone's comments and questions. I think so. I was thinking maybe next week we will shift from having discussion on criminal and psychological things and talk about metaphysical things. I think I'd like to cover some of the things in the realm of metaphysics, which includes the paranormal and certain things that fall under that. If you are interested, we can talk about some of that and see where everyone is out at in their beliefs about the spirit world, ghosts, mediums, psychics, the paranormal, the metaphysical is the science of the paranormal is metaphysical science. So maybe we'll talk about that, and it'll probably be about the same time. It'll be Sunday around 3. If you all aren't too busy, I would love to talk about that with you. I will share with you some of my psychic gifts that I have and some of my experiences in the realm of metaphysics, and we'll have a good conversation about that, and I'll answer your questions, of course. So, okay. So I guess that's it. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me. Please tell your friends to like and subscribe. I never say that. I guess I'm supposed to say that, but I appreciate you all tuning in, and I thank you for the super chats. That was very kind. And I will see you all next Sunday. All right. Thank you so much and have a good night. Okay, bye.